Larry Smith was on the inside, and so was Frank Warren, and Petty found a hole about 7.5 feet wide at 160 miles an hour, and he threaded the needle. It's Petty back in front, Bobby Isaac in second. Blown engine in turn number 2 here at Texas World Speedway. Faustino has blown an engine. He has spun down the backstretch. One car going upside down. Tiny Lund comes into it. Let's go now to turn number 1. Let's take a report from Fritz Duda.
Car number 5, Doc Faustinus of Las Vegas, Nevada, is the car we have identified. Ken, you may check that. We had the binoculars on him as he came around turn number 2. Can you identify him with binoculars? We'll get him on him, and we'll be right back to you with a report.
Dick May has come to a stop on the backstretch. Faustino's car slid about 400 feet, blew an engine, and we have one automobile apparently upside down. It looks like Cecil Gordon's car may have had trouble. 96 had trouble, too. Car number 96 came out of turn number 2, and Richard Childress's automobile has spilled. He's dumped it at least 1, 2, possibly 3 times in a sidewinder off turn number 2.
Back to turn number 1. This is Fritz Duda with a report. Ken, the first car to cause that problem over there was Doc Faustinus of Las Vegas, Nevada, in a 1970 Plymouth. He blew his engine as he came out of turn number 2. White smoke billowed from the rear end of the car. He tried to go down low in the groove as he came out of 2. He got sideways. There was oil all over the track. And following him into turn number 2 was car number 53, Dick May of Brownville, New York, in a 1970 Plymouth. May spun, went sideways, round and round and round, and then car number 96, Richard Childress of Winston-Salem, got in the same mix-up, and there's nothing but confusion and commotion down there. We'll get our binoculars on it and be back with you another report.
Richard Childress's car was the car that was upended and went over several times out of turn number 2. Waiting for a further report on Childress, Marvin Pinch.
Dick May's car came back into the pit, and Richard Boggs, I seen his car go down the backstretch on the grass. It looked like a dune buggy jumping dunes back there, but he made it back into the pit, so they're working on it, trying to get it back. Tiny Lund made it in the pits and out, and Bobby Allison's in. Bobby Isaac made his pit stop and is gone.
David Ray Boggs' automobile still on pit road. Apparently does not want a relief driver. One of the drivers came over and talked to him, but he does not want relief. The hood is up on David Ray's car. Car number 53, Dick May's car directly in front of him, and now David Ray Boggs is out of his car. He's walking around to the front of his machine.
I would say as high as I seen him in the air over there through the rough stuff that he probably knocked out some of the front suspension.
He was getting 4 and 5 feet off the ground. Here is David Ray Boggs out of the car number 57.
Ken, this is Barney Hall up in turn 4. Cecil Gordon also came out on the short end of that. He was also one of the cars you saw flying up through the air as he apparently went into some of the drainage ditches and was jumping 8 and 10 feet in the air. Cecil's car is still sitting out just off the grass with a hood up on that automobile, and Tiny Lund came right through the thick of it also, but apparently Tiny didn't have any problems as he did get into the pits. So let's go back to the tower.
Waiting for a report on Richard Childress. David Ray sitting down very dejectedly on the wall, just taking a big, deep breath. It's over for him today. What a bad break for a tremendous young runner who had started 27th and worked his way up to 10th. And he doesn't even look at the racetrack. He just looks back into the infield here at Texas World Speedway and now takes off on the run. Let's see what David Ray is up to this afternoon. David Ray Boggs, Morrisville, North Carolina. Number 76, Ben Arnold, has pitted. He started to run up to check with someone on something and now is coming back. He is okay, but his car really took some tremendous abuse as we have an altercation on the backstretch. I believe that is the first car upside down in the history of the Texas World Speedway. Richard Childress' automobile flipping, and there's a congregation there. Of course, they can't get to the car, but they're down there in the grass area up to the fence where that car flipped. Doc Faustino's car is also over there. They have to bring that in.
This is Fritz Duda in turn 1. We have the binoculars. Turn 2 is directly opposite us here from our broadcast vantage point up above turn number 1. Faustina's car is now up on a tow truck right in the middle of the track. There's a crowd around that drainage ditch on the inside of turn number 2. The tow truck and emergency personnel are over there on the outside of the track. A huge crowd really blocking our vantage point at this time. We'll keep the binoculars on, Ken, and be back with a report later.
Large group of fans over there. They cannot get to the car, that the safety crews were there immediately. Doc Faustino's car is now being brought in, and we have more pit stops coming up. We have a fire on pit road. Flames belching up From under car number 61, Clarence Lovell's car from San Antonio, Texas, the Lone Star Ford automobile has the fire crews to it, and they have extinguished the blaze. Let's see if they'll be able to refire the car. Marvin?
Look over there. Benny Parsons dragging a water tank behind him. On the hose is hooked to the back of his car, and he's dragging the tank down the backstretch.
Yeah, this is Barney Hall up in turn number 4, and Bobby Isaacs says something happened to his car. He was coming down the back straightaway.
That's something you rarely see, Ken.
Really coming into a creeping situation, and now he is stopped up in the middle of turn 4, and looks like Elmo Langley is pulling in behind the car to push Bobby Isaacs into the pits.
That's just what he's doing, and here comes Benny Parsons dragging his tail behind him. Benny Parsons coming down pit road, and about 25 or 30 feet behind him comes some of the equipment. Here he comes coming in, and he looks like a mouse with a long tail, Marvin.
He sure does, Ken, and he's got all the hose with him. Everything's hooked up behind him. Surprising he didn't lose it out there in the racetrack.
Well, it stayed there all the way around. The crew is in, and they're now unhitching it. Marvin, again, what was it?
They've got it unhitched, and Benny's getting ready to pull out again.
Benny Parsons carrying a little extra baggage around the Texas World Speedway this afternoon. Allison is in for left side rubber. Isaac is in, and the hood is up on his automobile. Let's see what the story is on Bobby Isaac's car. He's made a tremendous run today, but apparently there's a mechanical problem on a race car that may be giving him some fits right now. Harry Hyde is underneath it looking. Hood is up.
They had a couple of mechanics to climb inside the car, look under the instrument panel also, and then climb back out the window. They could have some electrical problems or any one of a dozen things. Let's hope they get that car back in.
Ignition problems. He was pushed in by Elmo Langley's automobile. Elmo Langley's car brought him in. Car number 71, Isaac's automobile, still being worked on. And will they put a lap on him? Here comes the pace car down out of turn number 4. Richard Childress flipping his automobile, and the report is that Richard is okay. Richard Childress walking away from a bad sidewinder out of turn number 2 as he put it up on its roof and over several times. Doc Faustino's car, which blew the engine, which commenced the whole activity, he is out. Cecil Gordon is out. Wendell Scott now retiring. Frank Warren's car has gone back to the garage, and David Ray Boggs. And the report is that Richard Childress, who flipped off turn number 2 several times, is okay. The Winston-Salem runner, the young independent, been trying so hard, has really bad luck here today. That's too bad. You hate to see anyone have bad luck at the tremendous speeds these guys go. He is physically all right, but I'm sure that mentally he's torn up. He's put a lot of effort into this car, and the car has really taken a shellacking as any car would, flipping at 160 miles an hour. One of the cars that was in that incident coming out of turn number 2, the driver standing by with Jerry Smith.
Doc Faustino with me in the pits now. Doc, what happened out there?
Well, the engine just let go coming out of turn 2 all of a sudden. I tried to get into the dirt, but I got my own oil and just spun down the track. And then it was dead. I couldn't get into the dirt. Glad nobody hit me.
A lot of cars involved, at least 4 or 5, at least spun out. One on top of his head. He is all right, but were they going around you to cause the accident?
They were trying to miss me, yeah. Nobody hit me, and I'm real glad of that. All I could do was sit in the car and brace myself, expecting somebody to hit me, but nobody hit me.
Doc, you're going to show up at Daytona for the next one next week.
Well, I got to get an engine first. Maybe one of the casinos in Las Vegas will come up and sponsor me for an engine for Daytona, I hope.
Okay, Doc Faustino is out of it. Let's go back to the tower.
They have brought in Richard Childress' car. Let's go to Fritz Duda.
They just pulled the Childress car, the blue 1971 Chevelle with the big orange gold letters, number 96 on it. As it is pulled behind the tow truck, we can observe it now. The whole front end is sandwiched up. The top of the car crunched in. The front of the car really bearing no resemblance to a car at all. As they pull it back in behind the garages now with a white tow truck pulling it off. They've pretty well got the track back in condition over there now, Ken. They have had cement and sand splattered all over the inside there where Faustino let go. And Dick Childress, a very lucky young man as we view his automobile coming into the garage now. Back to radio control.
Richard Childress, number 96, is almost back to the garage area, which will finish its trip today. It's a sad way to finish it.
Tower, this is Jerry Smith in the pits, and I have right now with me Richard Childress, who had the accident on the other side of the course, turn 2. Richard, first of all, the most important question, how are you?
I'm okay, a little bit sore right now.
How did the thing happen, Richard?
Well, Doc had been smoking for about 5 or 6 laps, Pat, and I knew he was going to blow. I was just trying to get around it before he did, and when he blew, another car, I think it was Raymond or somebody, sort of came down in front of me, and I just spun the car to miss him. And when I did, I hit a culvert, and the car just started flipping.
Richard, I've been wondering about the question. When this sort of thing happens to you, do you actually have time to think about what's going on?
Well, not really. I was just, I just cut left and locked the brakes. That's all you can do once you lose it, running like, the speeds we do.
Going to be running in Daytona next week?
I hope so. The car, I don't believe is as bad as, we thought it was.
Okay, Richard Childress is out of it. He's going to be all right with a little bit of rest here, I'm sure. A few bruises. It's going to be stiff for a week, but we'll see in Daytona. Let's go back to the tower in Kent Squire.